here, yeah.
347.
Yeah.
Everyone except for Crystal is here.
All right, starting with item 3, we have on our standard business the approval of previous outstanding minutes. There was some contention as to form and format. Where do we stand with that, John?
Up to you, motion can be made at this point for whatever, or whomever would like to.
I have a couple of remarks to make about it before we go there. And I wrote it so that I would not leave anything out. So forgive me for reading to you, but this may be helpful. We've had a few delays in posting the minutes since the election last November. And at our last meeting, Bob expressed that his schedule had held him back in putting the meetings together. And we certainly understand that because life comes before board meetings sometimes. So we want to thank Bob for his efforts in submitting the minutes for the meetings up to this part. But because of some of the differences of opinions regarding the form of the minutes and how they should be kept, there have been a number of emails back and forth between us all and trying to sort this out. So I would like to submit some edits to the minutes that we are currently reviewing. And these minutes came from asking Google to take the minutes that Bob has put together. And I also gave Google our guidebook from our attorney for how we are to keep minutes, and asked the two to match so that Bob's minutes can be matched up to what's required by our legal advice. So I'm going to hand these out. I don't know if you have time to actually read them or not, but I'm going to hand them out. And this is the summary. Let's see, that was mine. This is the minutes that Google put together for us using all of Bob's information. Let's see. So I'm going to propose that we accept Bob's minutes with these edits that have been reformatted to form a strictly aligned with the legal checklist and sequence specified on pages 26 and 27 of our legal guide. This layout includes only the mandatory procedural items in the official motions. And I would suggest that we save Bob's latest version of the minutes from June 30 and April 16 and include reference for the board for information for the future. It's very valuable. I couldn't do the same for the June 9th minutes, because for some reason I can't put them in a PDF form. But at any rate, I'm suggesting that these minutes that I'm passing out now are the ones that we adopt. So that we can get them out. There's been a delay, obviously. Oh, I need some of those, sorry. There's been a delay, and we don't want to postpone anymore. And we want to be concise and get them out so that everybody can have them. Now, one of the questions about minutes has been that they need to be totally transparent. Well, our meetings are totally transparent. Every one of you can come here. Everyone in our association is invited to come here, completely hear everything that is said and done. So that's a transparency that we have. And Trice videotapes almost every one of our meetings. If he's here, he takes it, he puts it online on YouTube. So anyone who wants to see that can. So there's as much transparency as you can have in what goes on in our meetings. However, the minutes are not meant to be a transcription. They're meant to be a very concise piece of paper that documents anything where there's a motion or an action that we have voted on as a board. So with that said, I would need a motion to either accept the minutes as prepared.
Before you make a motion, can I just mention that the last couple sentences on this should be edited out. It's kind of just a prompt that probably should be
At the beginning?
at the very end.
Which one?
The very last
Oh,
couple.
which minutes?
Oh, I only got one.
Oh,
This is
Here's a-
April 16th.
and here's June 30.
Got it.
And I need
Okay.
one for June 30 as well.
You don't have to stay with it.
Here's June
It just looks like there's a prompt at the end of it that needs to be.
30. Okay. These would need to be
There is a-
retyped. These would need to be retyped.
Right, but if we were to accept it as is, then if you're ready to prepare your meeting, let me know, and that should be erased.
I'm sorry, I don't see that.
That's at the very bottom of both minutes. The very, very last.
Oh, I see. That sentence, yes.
Yeah, that should just
Yes.
not be included.
And we would need to set this up so that it looks like our minutes usually look. This
Or,
is-
yeah, this isn't about
These
format.
are, this is content only. It's
Right,
not
and
how it will be.
Because that is content, it should be marked as not included.
And we do have some, I'll pass these out later so we don't get all confused. We do have some action items that were also suggested. They are not a part of the minutes, but we can keep them as a reference as well. So we would need a motion to accept, a motion to whatever. And since I'm bringing this up, I don't want to make the motion.
Can we add in a motion without the last sentence of,
Yes,
if you are ready to
absolutely.
prepare your meeting? Because doesn't have anything to do with the actual minutes itself.
I have some comments before we make a motion of any sort.
Well, before we do that, there is a motion on the table, so we should vote on that first. And then.
The motion's not been made, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry, yes.
I thought it was, that's my
I
mistake.
No,
apologize.
nobody verbalized the motion.
All right, never mind
Okay.
then.
Nobody's verbalized the motion, so I'd like to make some comments here. I want to explain the process that I've used to do minutes, and one is I'm actually grateful for Price videotaping the meetings because I spend hours listening to it and transcribing it. Then what I do is I go through it and I boil it down to a more concise format, and I use Anthropic Claude AI to go through that and to further modify the minutes according to the formats suggested by State of Illinois HOA regulations for recording minutes. We have differences of opinion on the board as what defines transparency in minutes, okay? That has resulted in the minutes from the April meeting. I've gone through 6 drafts of that now. Modifying it according to feedback I've gotten, as well as some additional thoughts I got from doing AI and reflection on some of the things that Dorothy sent me, and feedback that I got from Pat McAvoy, okay? So, I would, this is interesting to receive these right now at this meeting because everybody here has received the latest versions of the minutes and had a chance to look at them. Earlier versions over the last month or two, and the most recent version within the last 4 days. To vote on something that we're just receiving now and having no time to read it or review it, and also taking into account the opinions, the differences of opinions, my motion would be to submit the minutes that I've drafted based on everything I've done and ask our attorney's opinion whether they're acceptable.
So there is now a motion on the table at this point, so is there a second? Going once? No second, motion does not carry.
Well, I'd like to make a motion which somebody may revise. I'd like to make a motion to start using our attorney's advice and doing them the way she advises us to do them. I think legal action or legal advice would supersede whatever AI we're using. So that would be my motion to follow Katrina's advice going forward on all of our minutes. Not going forward, going back to our meetings,
16th and
yeah, 16.
30th.
So a motion on the table.
I want to further discuss that, which I'm permitted to do when a motion has been made and seconded. The advice that we've gotten from our attorney, I have tried to abide by that along with additional information that I've gotten. That is why I think instead of us continuing to debate about what are good minutes, I think we actually need a legal opinion on that. That was why I made my motion.
I
So
think we have the legal opinion.
I think
we
she's
don't
already-
on the versions of minutes that are being debated
But
right
we have
now.
a guidebook to show exactly what the minutes should be. And I think that's the Bible that we should be following. And that's from our legal advice, from our attorney.
I have criticisms about that from AI about that
I
format.
know, but there's an attorney in AI, I mean,
And our management company has
yeah, I mean,
also
personally,
given us, given advice in regard to what
One second. Did you second that motion?
I was about to,
Got it. I did not hear, that's,
I was waiting for the discussion.
apologies. I just wanted to make sure.
I would second that Janice's motion as it relates to this, with the caveat that we submit this documentation to the attorney to make sure it fits the prescribed format that we will live by in the future. Some of the stuff that, and it's good work that Bob has done in the past, has a bit of editorializing in it. So, and I don't know whether you're doing it or whether the AI is doing it. They tend to be a little wordy sometimes. But as it stands right now, I would call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes 3-1 on votes.
3-1. Thank you.
For clarification purposes,
Yes.
when you say those particular minutes, you're referring to the ones that Dorothy just handed out? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
So are we going to retype them in the usual form that we use, or are we going to submit them just like this for content?
Up to you.
Clarification, please.
With the exception of the
The line.
so noted line on the
Correct.
page
Yes.
two,
Yes,
in my mind, these would be the ones that you would evaluate.
okay. For content, not for, like, we don't have the proper title.
That's correct.
I thought would be the easiest thing to do would be to give her the minutes I've done, the latest versions, and just have her cross out what she doesn't want to include. Because those are aligned with a combination of perfect format and what, these are a function of AI.
From
Okay?
everything.
So you're saying don't
from
accept
everything-
mine because mine are AI,
No.
but yours are.
that's not what I
No.
said.
Yeah.
You didn't do the same thing that we did. We asked it to be formatted according to the policy that she gave us. I do not want to pay an attorney to read 8 pages of your minutes. I think that's a waste of money.
Difference of opinion there.
Well, there is, but we need to decide. You asked.
Well, the
if-
decision has been made.
If we could have her
Decision's been made.
read yours.
So,
That's a good read. I mean, it takes about 45 minutes. I don't want to pay her to do that when it's not necessary. I would think. We have the advice from the management company. We have her advice and her plan in the book. And isn't this enough? If she approves this, isn't that enough?
That's a question for you, John.
yes.
Is that enough?
If you want to reach out to the attorney, she will supersede anything, so.
I understand that, I'm just saying,
Are you asking for my opinion?
yes.
Gotcha. As long as the materials in the accepted minutes cover motions, time of start, adjournment, roll call, and the very specific things that are very listed on not only our guide, but the guide that Kathy has also given us, I think that would be absolutely fine.
Okay. So we're agreed then?
on the total.
Majority at least.
Moving on.
What I'd like to know is who's gonna rewrite the minutes?
Retype.
Is that retyping, because I've already done it several times, 6 for one.
If you don't want to do it, I can do that. I have no problem with that.
Thank you. We have the treasurer's report, John?
Yes.
Treasurer? You got nothing to say?
Okay, here we go. Apologies for that, new computer. Current financials are for 31st of July 2026. Current operating account $35,316.46. Current reserve account $62,200.69. With other assets of prepaid at $3,000-ish, which gives you total assets of $101,108.65. Matching your equity and liabilities, which is exactly what that should be. Currently on the month-to-month variances, there isn't really anything out of the ordinary except for what we have already pointed out numerous times in that the scavenger, which we will talk about later, is over budget as we have discussed previously. Other than that, there's no irregularities, as well as the entirety of everything beyond 1 month of AR has been now solved. So no one beyond 1 month owes any assistance or legal fees, which is a really good thing as well. And basically, everybody's caught up to date.
So that one discrepancy was taken care of?
It was, yes. I actually did it myself. I've been working with Tressler as well. I received confirmation of that on Monday. We are good to go. And again, nobody owes more than 1 month's assessment in the entire association.
And then it seems to me that in our operating account, we hold back some money from our monthly nut, if you will. I think that the reserve number should be higher, John. Is that the reason why?
The reserve transfer is done every month. It's the same number every month.
Okay.
If we always have the option to add to that, if you think that some of that money can be moved into the reserve, we have that option almost at any point. So,
But the run rate we're at right now
yes,
is where it should be.
correct. Yeah, that's set on January 1st of every month when we begin the new yearly budget. So exactly every month, it is exactly the same.
All right, thank you. Any questions about the finances?
Only one question for John.
Yes.
John, is it possible to move in your statement of revenues and expenses, under repairs and maintenance, is it possible to move 841 scavenger to a different category? Because it's really a service as opposed to a repair and maintenance. It's a routine service.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we can change GLs to fit anything you like. So, I mean,
Where would you propose moving that? Administrative? Or somewhere else?
I mean, that's totally up to you. It's really just a default for what we have for GL numbers, because the number and the actual category can be adjusted at any time. So you just tell me where you want it to go, you put it there.
What other types of things fall into that category?
Under repairs and maintenance,
Yeah.
gutter cleaning, roof repairs, exterior building repair. Landscaping is landscape contract, landscape extras and snow plowing.
Right.
Administrative is more paperwork, legal fees, banking things, and then insurance is its own category.
Sure.
Legitimately what we could do, and, because again, this is wide open, We can keep the GL the same and just make 84-100 its own GL of scavenger. And then it would have its own category.
We need to make a motion, or is that something
No,
administrative? you can do?
Or could you just change the category of landscaping to landscaping and disposal?
Yeah,
Just put scavenger down there, then you don't,
Yeah,
then you can still keep
yeah, we can keep
this
84-100.
page to the size that it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just move it under landscaping, add the words landscaping and removal or whatever verbiage.
Disposal or,
Disposal? Yeah, not a problem.
is that acceptable?
Sure.
Does that require a motion from us?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just a basic financial sheet that, we're not making any actual changes to the budget or anything to that, to just how it's being printed out.
Okay.
So no worries on that.
Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah, of course, that's easy.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our next category. I'm going to push the reserve study down. I know it's going to generate a lot of talk. And I want to have everyone's full attention on it when we do it. The roofing update is
It's dependent on the reserve study as well as the roofing update. As we know, we've had some nasty storms come through here,
Sure.
which has really pushed the roofing company to be out here a lot more than we expected this year. However, that's just part of living in an HOA, unfortunately, in an area full of storms. So the only really thing that I have to add on that is reminders that we do have proposals for roof repairs already, which we can break down every roof repair and replacement, up to the board on that, however you'd like to decide on that. And also, most likely, when we come down to it in December, when we do a year end, that the roof and gutter repairs is going to be over budget, but it is for unforeseen circumstances of weather relations. So simply just information at that point.
And how do we account for the money that we expend, we're saying?
I can't answer that right now because we're still going in the year.
Okay.
Because come December, we might have a light snow year to where that it may not end up making a budgetary difference. Or we have a surplus in a different other account, or a different other GL that covers that. This is just really more informational than anything that, for the board's information of, yes, most likely we're going to go over budget in that area. Let's keep that in mind when we make future decisions throughout the rest of the year. Decision on making that up does not need to be made right now because we don't know if there's actually money that needs to be made up at this point.
In essence, moving money around, so.
Yeah, we don't have to do that
Maybe.
yet. We recommend doing that November or December based on year-end financials because, again, anything can happen in 3 months from now. So really, more than anything, it's just a heads up. We've experienced some natural weather anomalies that have caused us to spend more money in roofing than we anticipated, which means that we should keep that in mind as further spending goes throughout the year.
And or planning for the 27 budget?
Correct, absolutely.
To our knowledge,
Go ahead, sorry.
to our knowledge, do we have anybody that we know of that needs immediate attention on the road?
As far as I know, everyone who has reached out has been put in contact with Berry Roofing and or has already had replacement, not replacement, but fixes done to contain water seals on that. If not, and I know there's one that I need to make up with and follow up for sure on, we'll get that done as soon as possible. I turn around on that for a reply from Berry is usually 24 to 48 hours of us receiving it, not a Berry receiving it. So it should be quick, and if it's not, and it's lost in the shuffle somewhere, get on us so we can get that taken care of. That is a huge thing.
John, we currently have $4,120 budgeted for the entire year for roof repairs. Do the proposals that you have for the needs that you're currently aware of fit within that
No,
amount?
no, it's over that already.
Do you know approximately how much is over?
I don't, and I won't know until the August financials, unfortunately.
Okay.
I can make an estimate, but I don't like to do that because that's not my area of expertise.
All right, thank you. Concrete repair update, that had to do with the two projects?
Yeah, it's done. That's the update. Are you satisfied with the results?
I thought it looked great.
I checked down by Mary and my next door neighbor, I thought they did a great job.
I spoke with both homeowners who were affected, and they seemed okay with it as well, but as it was still unfinished, I wanted to make sure everything was good so that we can mark it off the list.
And it's been billed and paid?
Correct.
Can we go back to the roofing for just one question that I have? Do you recall the cost for that Gary does when they do look at all the roofs from the
drone?
top? Pardon me? The drone. Do you remember how much that costs?
Not offhand, no.
Because with all of the weather that we're having and have had and probably are going to have, maybe it would be a good thing to do that again. I think it's been about 2 years since we did that.
No, the last time they did it was when we got Barry Roofing's proposal for roof replacement, so that was
Oh,
actually a
I
couple
was
months ago.
unaware of that.
Yeah, that was part of that. In there, they went and actually went up on there and did
Do we have a report that we could have to see
yeah, it
that?
was in the bid that they submitted. It was months ago at this point, but I can send it back to you.
Okay.
Do we need to do it again? No, I mean.
No, if they did it at that point, no. I just was unaware that
Got
they
it.
did that.
I mean, I can see it both ways based on how bad the weather has been, because again, I do believe there was like a tornado that came through about a mile there, so, I
They
mean.
just had lots of shingles laying.
Yeah, and
They may
that,
not have been from our roofs.
yeah, and it could be. So again, they're gonna be back out no matter what in October, so either way, it's
Okay.
totally acceptable, whatever you want to do.
Thank you.
Can you send that to?
Absolutely. I'll send it to everybody again.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
We have had several vendors out giving us estimates on the balcony repairs and update. One of the things, a couple of the numbers that we've seen are reasonable, I guess easiest way to say it. Howsoever, somebody has made the request that we look at, as opposed to painting and repairing, let's tear them all down and start from scratch. Have we addressed that at all?
Not me personally.
Were ones that were in the repair, were they identified as anything needing immediate
No,
repair?
not anything that would be emergency repair.
And are you aware of any kind of replacement of the spindles and things like that that came up?
If it was in there, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I don't believe so.
'Cause I don't want to expose people,
Correct.
but I don't want to go through a whole repair process. And then if we're going to consider taking all the balconies down in the near future, we would want to do the painting after
Of course.
the new
Yeah.
ones. Bob, you got a question?
Yeah, I think it's a little problematic because some balconies have sliding glass doors behind them, and those would need to be replaced with Juliet balconies for safety purposes and by code. Other balconies, it would need to be evaluated
For structural?
structurally, how are they in place? Do they have joists that run under the floor of the unit? And how would those be capped, things like that. So I think you need to get a separate quote on the ones that would need to be. And then there's the
I guess that,
the expectations of owners having bought a unit with a balcony and now it's not there, even though the balconies are pretty much unusable because they're so narrow.
Well, regardless of that, everything you said is correct, right? Not to step on your toes, but with that, anything that we did from here on would require a structural engineer to be present and actually give their 2 cents and put that into proposal as well. We can't just have a company come through and say, we're gonna do woodwork and painting and such like that. Anything beyond what we already have would require an engineer.
yeah, I know that when we replaced our balcony, we got new windows, we no longer needed the, the railing, because we didn't have a
Sure.
sliding glass door up there. But it's not simple, it's not as simple as just taking the wood off. You gotta put the hardy board up where it was, and so it was brought to the table, and I want to make sure we don't go down a path where we repair and paint, and then the next board.
Spend money twice, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
There is precedent for removing some of the balconies because several of our owners have replaced windows and they have removed balconies. But they are also windows where it's not a sliding glass door, it's something else.
Correct, yeah, it would be on a case by
So
case
there is
basis.
precedent for that. There's also precedent in removing some of the wood that is decorative rather than it actually serves a function. And we did that when we did the hardy board. There were some beams that connected the inside units. They went from one garage to the other garage. I think there were 3 or 4 of them in each unit. We removed those because they were decorative, so no function, nobody was using them. So you have precedence for doing that. However, as I think it was Pat just said, or maybe for safety, the sliding glass doors have to have something across there. But we don't, there isn't probably any place where we have to have a 2-foot balcony. They could all be Juliet balconies, just right up against the slide. My bedroom has a Juliet balcony. It's just basically a fence that keeps anybody from walking out. I also have a balcony in the courtyard that's about 2 feet that I don't ever let anybody go out there, and I don't ever go out there, not because I think there's anything wrong with it, I just don't think it's a good idea. And when, I think some of them, particularly if they're in bad condition, the ones that are 2 feet, I think they are a safety issue. They may even be a safety issue if they're in great condition, just having people go out there because falls. I had a window cleaner when I go out on that balcony and clean my window and stand on that, and I said, oh no, go get your ladder, because I don't want to be responsible for anything that might happen to you. So there could be some thought that might save us some money, and might also guarantee some safety in changing the ones that are 2 feet to Juliet, and it would create safety, and it would also save money.
I think, I hear what you're saying, and I would agree on precedents that you made aware. I think those owners that have changed their windows and have removed balconies because of the new windows, that's all been by owner choice. So we're talking about something that would be an HOA choice as opposed to an owner choice. So we can encourage, I know those of us that have replaced our sliding glass doors with windows that get better energy efficiency, so it's a good move if you can afford to do that. And you'll get a better view because the balcony won't be there. So the more people that can do that, the better it's going to help with these kind of expenses that we're talking about. One thing I would encourage us to do is to separate in the proposals that we have. It kind of included balconies and railings in there, as I understand, because there's railings that go across some of the garages. And I think if we have any priority at all, we should really look at any kind of railings across the garages that do need to be repaired and eventually painted, because some of those railings, I know ours has a lot of wobble in it, and it has a lot of those spindles have actually just been nailed to the hardy board below it, and they're starting to pop out. You can see how they're starting to separate out, so we don't let our grandkids go up there at all. So there are some safety issues, and so we should really, if we're gonna prioritize anything, we should kind of zero in on the railings as opposed to the balconies. So that'd be my suggestion. So,
I'd like to know our time frame. You know, this is already almost September 1st. The last painting project we did was delayed and delayed and delayed, and they didn't do it until December, which was not a good thing to do. So what's our time frame to get these bids, approval, and complete?
On top of what we have already, I'm not sure, because we would have to get new bids for specifics that aren't covered on the bids that we already have. And I can't speak for the vendors' timeframes based on that, because I don't know their schedules.
Well, I just would like to be, I would like to be reassured that this is going to be done either timely and before pre-season comes, or wait until March.
Yeah, and I can't guarantee one way or the other based on that. If
And I just don't want to see it done like last time.
Correct, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. Unfortunately, I'm not.
If you're going to be delayed, that being done in what time frame?
Sure.
John, is it AAA that was the bid you were, is that the proposal in the bid that you were more confident in, from all the ones we've got? They were very detailed in their wood replacement
Yeah,
specs.
That's really the only one I see. I know you had one earlier, I believe.
yeah.
I never saw.
There's one from Inside Out from AAA, and
Did you get the one from the vendor?
they are working on sending that out as well. They're supposed to be here this week to do that, so that's coming as well. Depending on what you're looking for, I don't know how well I can answer that question, because I can only look at the bids as they are current.
So my question is, we've got
Go ahead.
We've got a very detailed line-by-line spec from AAA
And also
To-
Inside Out as well.
to expedite getting something done like for railings. Can we just go through that and either cross out
Red
things
line,
that have to
yes.
do with red line the balconies and just say, can you quote on all the railings? Can you just provide us a revised one?
I guess.
Yes.
Or when they stand up to their piece pricing, without having to go through and separate it out.
I can certainly ask, I don't see why they wouldn't. That was part of the procedure of the.
Let's move forward with that, 'cause
Okay.
to Janice's point, we either do it, commit to do it right now,
Now,
or wait till spring.
yeah, exactly. I will reach out to the three vendors as well as Dorothy's as well, and I will get an answer to you by the end of the week on that.
Okay.
And can we have a copy of the inside out?
Yeah, I'll send it all over.
Okay.
Yep.
Parking pass update, John?
They are all ordered and still waiting for arrival at our office. There was a 4 to 6 week lead time, but the caveat of that was it was way cheaper, so as soon as we get it, we'll pass them on.
And then I received an email today indicating we should be careful on putting out any action on moving people off those lots, as we do not technically own them. I would like to suggest that we move forward on acquiring lots 10 and 12, is it, Dave?
Yes.
Some adverse
Possession.
possession.
Yeah, so the best with that would be to reach out to the attorney that Dave provided as well as Kathy and have them coordinate and get it done. So basically at this point, are you asking for a motion for us to
Yes.
carry through that?
Yes,
I have a motion.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed. So I will coordinate Kathy and the attorney, which was mentioned, to make sure that we have that as well.
Okay.
Go through all the proper channels so that there's no interference whatsoever.
Because we can't enforce it if we don't know it.
Correct.
We first, is anyone interested in, we have a do not hurt towing zone.
I'm sorry.
We have a towing
It's
zone.
been listed for 50 years.
For how many years have they?
50 years.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on paperwork, unfortunately, so
Well,
it never hurts to look on top of it.
no one's ever been towed, so I guess it's a moot point at this junction. Next item is the driveway seal coating update.
I actually got it this afternoon. They are looking at, forgot about that. Tentative dates, like I said, I received this afternoon. The original plan was end of the month.
This is that firm on the south side. John,
What's that?
they're on Tinley or someplace in Frankfurt, maybe.
No, they're from Roselle. They're from Roselle, AAA, or A&A.
All right.
31st and the 1st. Ooh. That's Labor Day weekend, isn't it?
No,
No, it's not.
I don't think so.
No, Labor Day weekend is the,
Apologies. You're absolutely
It's
right.
the following week.
My mistake. Yes, so they're, and again, this is tentative, 31st and the 1st. I will reach out, and I will go back and forth with the account manager on that to make sure all details are locked down, and then which ones they're going to start with, where parking can be handled at that point, once we have the dates officially locked in, and I work directly with the account manager at that one.
So it would be wise for all of our homeowners to start making friends with their neighbors who have driveways where you can
Well,
park your
fingers
car.
crossed, they're not gonna run out of room. I don't even want to say it, but the whole purpose of doing it one parking lot and then the second one is so that the overflow can take care of the one that's not.
Okay, all right.
That being said, what Dorothy said is certainly not
Get to know
untrue.
your neighbors.
When does
maybe
the
friends.
Craigville sealing start?
Same day, it'll be the same time.
But what day this month or next month?
It will either be the 31st or the 1st, depending on what they have told me.
first is a Tuesday and the 31st is Monday.
So is it 31st and 1st?
Yes, tentative still, not locked down, but it's 90%.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a 2-day process.
Yeah, because they're gonna split the,
Okay,
because of the parking lot.
gotcha.
Under new business, we've got a,
Okay, I have one thing on your old business.
Yeah.
I understand, I'm trying to get through some of this stuff. This is a perfunctory thing that we have to do to meet the new Illinois law on our collections policy.
Correct. So with that, we got word a couple weeks ago from the state of Illinois, from all the attorneys that we work with. A bill passed the state governance, both House and Senate, unanimously that each association, condominium association is required to have in place a very, very specific collections policy by December 31st. Enforcement will begin on January 1st of 2027. Good news is, we already have all that. So there's nothing that we actually have to go through and adopt or actually follow up and change per the rules and regulations regarding documents. However, what we do need to do is submit a document that says we have all that and include the specifics of the collection policy that are laid out in the rules and regulations and the other governing documents, the bylaws and the declarations, in a concise little form with a bunch of legalese that's attached to it through our attorney. Then they can file it and say that we are compliant. So basically what we're going to do, or what the addendum is that you're seeing now on there is the back of your board packet, and this is available to anybody if it's approved. We don't actually need to do anything regarding the owners because this is not a rules change. It is literally taking the rules as they are and putting them on a separate piece of paper, which is attached to your 22.1, which is given out as you sell or buy, and then filed with the state of Illinois that says we are compliant with their new law of collection policy, which again, we already were. It's just extra paperwork at this time. So myself, and a couple of attorneys from different firms across the state have put together the form that you see in the back of your page, which literally lists out 7 things that are already listed multiple times, if not more, in the rules and regulations, declarations, bylaws, etc. Just put into a separate document, which is then to be attached to the 22.1 and given out for rules, or with the rules and any governing documents, so that the state of Illinois doesn't have to flip through and can just turn to that page and say, there's their collection stuff. Great.
So we have nothing to approve.
There's nothing to approve. I do need a motion, however, so that we can make sure that we have it marked as a date that we have complied to the new state law, so that the attorney can file that, of which there's no cost. It is just a total paperwork. Nothing needs to come for it other than the fact that it has to be noted in the minutes that we are compliant. The piece of paper on there is everything and more that says we are compliant. So all again is just a motion that says we are on there.
So what day would that be? Would that be
It would be
today's
today.
date?
It would be today's
Would
date.
be- So it's, the motion is to document the date we have complied, which would be today.
Correct.
And before we make the motion formally, I just want to recap what you said. It's not a rules change, it reflects a restatement and a new format of our current policy that's in the declarations and rules and regs. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yes.
For concise reasons, okay?
No, you're absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion that we document the date we've complied with the new assessment collection policy that's restated, which would be today's date, subject to our vote.
Which would be 8/18/2026, just for posterity.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Beautiful. We are now in compliance and don't have to worry about that anymore. Again, if anybody wants a copy of that, feel free. I got a stack of them on my desk where I can email it to you. Again, there's no new information in it whatsoever, other than a whole bunch of legalese that says we still have 30 days to pay your assessments and nothing changes in the rules.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for skipping around here, but there are a couple of issues that we need to discuss going forward. I'll take it under the president's question mark. I've received in the last 30 days, maybe 45, requests from homeowners as it relates to the construction project. I contacted Ed Stevenson, and we had a conversation, and perhaps, Ed, you would like to kind of just recap what the Forest Reserve's position is, and as concisely as possible. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know I just basically we talked about with the concerns that NIRA made and the Roberts made as it relates to the growth of the fence going down and the widening of the closeness of our animal friends and things like that.
Sure. So yeah, a couple things. I think I'll wear my hat more as Forest Reserve District executive than anything else on this one. Pat, when you called, I'll paraphrase if I get it wrong. You shared first and foremost there was concerns, I think it came from NIRA, some questions regarding the golf course reconstruction. I think there were 3 items that I recall on that. One was a concern, was there going to be an impact with regards to flooding in our community because of the construction of the golf course? I think there may have been an assumption received that the somehow regulatory on this or otherwise. The reality is that we live in DuPage County, we live under the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance, which is actually, I think, held up as kind of the gold standard of protecting against any development causing stormwater impacts.
Sure.
Mitigation. Bottom line is, there would be no construction if there were any detrimental impacts. This project is permitted under the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance, they have jurisdiction for the Army Corps and otherwise. So it's been evaluated, permitted, reviewed, there would be no detrimental impacts. The reality is, everything being done out there is being done on permeable surfaces. So the fact that we live next to an open space like this, we're not living next to parking lots and roofs that I think is a lot of discussion today covered, tend to throw off stormwater. They don't absorb stormwater, but they're not supposed to. Roofs aren't supposed to bring in stormwater. But so, no, at the end of the day, this project is permitted through the regulatory agencies that are responsible for that and received full go-ahead with the permit to do that. And in fact, will be an improvement for the larger regional community for precious stormwater.
Sure.
There were questions, I believe you shared regarding the golf course and what appeared to be more targets near the units or otherwise. I think as you see the golf course come back into play, for a while, the golf holes that were here were originally built in 1920. These towns were built in the 1970s. So golf's been here a long time, a little long predating even what came in. The latest version of it, and the hole along hole 17, the one that's along the eastern boundary, is actually being moved further away. So the actual target areas and what's being seen are further away. Center lines, lines of flight are further away than they were in the previous version of the golf course. That was done deliberately. There was actually a meeting hosted for the benefit of all the Dominion residents in July of 2023 for feedback and input. There were requests made to look at multiple options and give feedback, some of which included not having any golf to the south and east of the Dominion community. There were some residents, Dorothy, I remember Steve standing up and saying, yeah, you didn't want that to happen. So we got some pretty clear feedback on that. Bottom line, the golf is further away from the units, and there will be more of a buffer between, vegetated buffer between.
By approximately 20 yards, it seems like.
It varies along the way. Yeah, golf been shifted further away. So I believe, I believe what you shared from Ira's concerns, unless I'm missing.
She's concerned about water coming her direction, coming our direction. That's her concern. Plus, she was always so concerned about, I don't know, she was talking about some circles that she thought they were going to be hitting from, and that there would be more golf balls coming toward her direction. I think those were the two issues she brought up. I can't remember anything else.
That sounds right, Dorothy. So again,
I know nothing about golf.
no, when it comes to the golf is not being routed any more towards the units than it ever has been. In fact, it's being moved further away. The targets, what she sees as targets, are actually starting points. Golf balls will be hidden away from those areas that she referred to the tees that she sees.
So the tee box, what would be 18,
That's correct.
going directly east, back towards the clubhouse. So they're not practice chipping areas or a driving range.
Correct.
Just one-
That is all correct, and that's, yeah, so that's true. As far as the floodwater, stormwater goes, again, that's been permitted through, upheld to the standard of the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance. There is more drainage going into the property than there has been previously. There actually more stormwater retention on behalf of the community. So I think it's probably important for everyone here to understand that one of the primary sources of stormwater, when you see it on the golf course, it's rain that's being displaced from the parking lots we apparently don't own, from the road, from the high rise, from the impermeable surfaces that we have right here. I believe every one of the units here, with the possible exceptions of the one on the north end, have downspouts and sump pump that all are kicking out water gathered here and going actually towards the golf course. That wouldn't happen if we were a Walmart out back instead of a living natural area. Pat, I think you also shared with me there was concerns about, gosh, I'm going to see more native wildlife or skunks in particular, I think was what you
That
shared.
was a concern.
Yeah, the bottom line is I think all of us have the blessing and curse of we live next to a forest. So So the Forest Service District owns 13% of land in DuPage County. We have 26,000 acres of what is largely native open space habitat. This is part of the quality of life equation here in DuPage County. Once again, it's not a Walmart out back. This is open space. The areas that are not maintained for golf will actually be replanted and regrown in as native Illinois prairie or wetland. High quality habitat for pollinators, for birds. When it comes to other animals that may be there, it's open space. They share that at all 60 properties.
They was it first.
I think what will, there are some resources, Pat. DuPage Wildlife Conservation Center has some tips on living with wildlife that we can start to find on that website and elsewhere, is that skunks in particular, they're denning creatures. They're not looking to go live in the middle of the grass of the prairie. They really like decks. They like areas where humans have built that allows them to den and gather. That's why they are attracted to units where there may be other things left out that are attractive to wildlife. So,
Yeah, I know we have part of our conversation, maybe not specifically in our area, but things that contribute to bringing unwanted animals would be things like bird feeders and stuff like that.
it's true. There are a couple things that happen, right? So often where we hear of concern with coyotes and that sort of thing, we trace that back. They come in closer to us because they're looking for birds that are attracting and congregating, squirrels that are congregating under bird feeders. So there are a lot of things we do as humans that ultimately create attractive amenities for the wildlife creatures who would otherwise.
They call it nuisances.
But, yeah, I mean, there are other things we do as well. We make decisions about garbage collection and those sorts of things. Those are not decisions we take lightly. Our neighbors in the Elizabeth community to our north have a rat infestation. That has been part of what they did. Share with me that part of what they did is they made a change to their scavenger pickup and changed the frequency. It's less frequent, so they have more garbage that's accumulated. They don't have as good a service as they had in the past, and now they have an issue with rats. Same thing's been seen in Mexico. So a lot of times it's our own choices as humans, mosquitoes. So when we have pools, bird baths, those sorts of things, those are often where humans test positive for mosquito larvae. So the bottom line is, yes, we have some managed living to consider, that we are next to a large area with some very high quality open space. It does come with the fact that there are birds, pollinators, wildlife, and that sort of thing. But I think there are things we manage, whether it's at the individual level or the association level, that help us coexist in that setting, that I think we all chose to live here in that setting rather than being something far more urban and for all of us.
And just to clarify for people that may not be aware of it, many years ago, the Preserve, as well as the association, entered into an encroachment agreement that really defines who does what to whom and how it gets done. You can comment on that.
I think one of the really unique things about this whole community is that there is a class survey problem. There's a property boundary problem. As I mentioned, the golf existed here long before this living community came in. Originally built under very different ownership consideration, but if you look at the property ownership and the plat surveys, along the south and east side of where we live, those property lines are right up to your back patios. In some places, I think part of that is unit is actually on government property. So there's a corner of it there.
When you say government, you mean DuPage Forest Preserve?
Is it? Yeah, it's exactly right.
I wondered about that. I looked at that map. I was here last night for the DP1A, and I looked at that map, and that line that comes behind all of us crossed right over
Right.
the end of her property, and I thought, that is really strange.
So I've worked with the Forest Service District for 31 years. Been around it for that long. I'll be honest, I'm unaware of, other than we've had lawsuits against folks who otherwise encroach onto district property. It's taxpayer-owned property. Pat, you referenced there's an acknowledgement in place that these encroachments exist because patios are on basically commonly owned property by 930,000 residents in DuPage County. So when you think about some of those common areas, those are very common areas. There is an agreement that was put in place that acknowledged that patios could be on district property as an understood improvement that's there. as if in an as-is state. So there's some language I know that's been shared around for a while, but yeah, it does start to very much define a little bit what we can and can't do and how to, again, coexist with not only wildlife, but coexist with
With each other.
Right.
And just for clarification, that area at the north end of our property, north of 311, that little pie-shaped area, that is Forest Reserve owned.
By the stop sign.
A portion of it is, and a portion of it is.
Yes, and so, just for clarifications, when asked, the Forest Reserve would maintain that area from mowing, stuff like that. Right now, we have Adeline doing mowing out there. Yes.
You know, Pat, that's a slippery slope, because right now you also have Adeline mowing district property behind your unit, my unit, everyone else's. So there's been a understood allowance for there to be some maintenance there. To be clear with district, overall, if we don't have a use for that area, we're not mowing. That's true across 60 properties. So if it were left to us to maintain it, we own that property as a district to be habitat for native plant life, flora and fauna, it's in our mission statement. So if you want to turn it over that to the district, we can gladly do that, but it's going to look natural really fast.
Is there any chance we could get our fence back? Because that's such a good
Demarcation.
demarcation to, you know, the golfers know that that shouldn't be crossed, and we know that they're gonna be, that's where, as far as we can go.
Right, Dorothy, in fairness of being direct,
I'm just asking.
I appreciate that, and I'm going to give you a direct answer on it. I think that fence overall became an ongoing maintenance expense, and it didn't provide really an adequate separation between golf and the residential areas. You're going to find instead we've invested in a far larger buffer of native areas, so golfers are not going to be coming through that area. As it matures and develops, it is going to create a pretty good natural vegetative barrier instead of something that needs ongoing maintenance and reinvestment.
Yeah, a lot of the problems that we tend to have is when the golf course has outings, and you get people that don't normally play golf, and they're all over the place, and that's why we end up with a lot of golf balls in our respective backyards. But it clearly states, I believe at 17T, that it takes a golfer to be very honest to admit that he made a mistake and broke the law.
Well, Pat, I appreciate it. I think that's why we, one, put a proposal out there that had no golf.
Sure.
We heard very loudly that that wasn't desirable for the community. I think we've discussed ideas of if we're going to invest in a fence, let's put a fence or a real fence. I think we heard very loudly that that's not desirable for the community. So at this point, the plan is, as proposed, as stated, and you know what, the great thing about plans is they can be revised if some living experience tells us they're not working, but what I suggest is probably the right idea is that we stick with the plan that's been invested in right now. We allow those areas to grow and mature. We see how golf is played, how it's been moved. It's been nudged further away. And you know, from there, we live next to a golf course. Just as we live near O'Hare Airport. We see a plane flying from time to time. There's going to be an air golf shot from time to time. Yeah, we have built into plans here to further mitigate that by moving everything away and creating a larger vegetation. So let's see how that
Can I
works.
ask a question here? I live on the end there, 452, and I appreciate everything that's going on with the golf course. I think it's a great project. We had a conversation together. We were talking about the fence at that one particular time. But what's happening on our side of the fence now is it's so overgrown, and I don't know if it's Adlon's neglect of maintaining the line that was, and it was there for years. So you're not planning on moving that prairie straight up to your property line. You're going to stick with the same agreement, correct?
Exactly. You know, as proposed, and why don't you continue mowing to where they mow it? What
But-
you see is overgrown right now is actually, that is not the quality of stuff we want there. That stuff is actually taken out, and that is going to be replanted.
So then you're going to do what you've done in the past. You've cut it twice a year, and it's going to be lower.
Depends on, yeah, we generally cut it before and after bird nesting season, but we're going to have some maintenance standards to let it establish, so it may not be in that routine.
Okay, then, is it gonna be, where are you gonna draw the line? Right now, when I looked out, when I bought this property, I bought it because it was on a golf course. And right now, I have no golf course on the 17 side. Understand, because the trees, the oak trees have grown way too much. I asked the maintenance guy 2 years ago to cut them back. He did me a favor and he cut them back for me. Now they're overgrown. They're overgrown to the point now, there is grass because there's been so much rain, but they need to be trimmed up to let our grass grow, because the weed, that prairie, whatever you're calling it there, is growing into it now. Adelon doesn't have a chance to cut it back to where it used to be. So that line's either gotta be maintained, or you gotta tell us whether you're gonna go by your agreement and then go right up to the lines right behind our balconies. And I'm sure,
We're not going to go line
Yeah.
down.
I'm making a point here, and I'm overemphasizing that point. Because if I put a ruler on it today, we've lost almost 7 feet of that grass we had before. It's not the property that I bought. Of course, I bought something that's your property, but it's still in all,
Well, it's our
It was-
question, we're resident, we're always big
it's
residents.
it's what we bought, okay? My property value, if it grows another, let's say if it grows 7 foot this year and it goes another 7 foot next year, that's 14 feet. So we need to address where that old property line was, or I'm calling it a property line, maybe it's not, but where that fence line was. And we also want to make sure that the bushes that are there, is it your intention to grow them 12, 14 feet in the air?
What will be planted there is not the type of
Go
species
take a
that's
look.
going to grow.
Go take a look,
We didn't
you're gonna
plant
see
it
that
there.
some of the greenage.
We didn't plant, what you see there is growing, it's not what's planned to be planted there.
Okay.
So there is still restoration of the native areas that has yet to happen. So what is growing there just wildly right now is not what is intended to be grown.
You know, I mean, I made this point, or my wife made this point, and no, Dorothy got back to us, but, I mean, it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed and agreed upon between both parties.
Well, I can address it when the fence went down. And I saw Ed Lawn starting to, when they round the corner by us, they're coming closer to us rather than stay where the fence was. My thing is, we should, for now, put some kind of flag, something, and let them know they gotta back that up. Because if you go look right now, they were just here, 1 or 2 days ago, when they round the corner by us, there's about this much down the line, they didn't cut it. And that was grass, so they're already now making another road that eventually it's gonna be taken over, yeah.
So the other thing is,
So,
I did walk down that side there behind Dorothy's building, and I looked around. There's an erosion problem. The erosion problem is coming from our gutters. Isn't like you explained, right? It's runoff that's gonna happen. But it wouldn't be so bad if common sense prevailed there. If you cut those trees back and let some sunlight get in there and have Adlon plant some grass, because it looks to me like it's nothing but crabgrass, stone and mud. I mean, it looks terrible. And it's kind of something, and I need to raise my voice here, but I'm a little concerned. I don't live here very much, it's an investment for me, and I think I'm losing my foothold in my investment. So that's when I'm gonna be a little boisterous. And I want what I bought in the beginning, which is a view of the golf course, okay, as well as some manicured lawns and some area that we purchased in the very beginning.
Thanks, Rich.
Can I say thank you for planting grass at the entrance, because I understand that initially that was going to be native grass, and that you planted it and you're growing it. We appreciate that, and because of the fact that we want to look like an association. We don't want to look like the forest preserve when people come in. So thank you for that. I was at the DHOA meeting last night, and there's an area here, and I don't want to take long with this, but there's an area that you stopped mowing in front of the pond, between the pond and the parking area. can that be continued to mow, be mowed
I
as it
want
was
to say,
in the
I
past?
think, there's great appreciation of how patient the entire community has been to endure what is construction and change, and as that goes on, there's disruption in all routines or areas you can't get mowers to compress. There's crews we don't have because, again, they get reassigned elsewhere while there is earth moving equipment and construction going, so, yeah, Dorothy, pardon our dust, if you will, but yeah, I understand the area, you know, the area that's north of,
Just north of the pond.
uh,
You know where the big oak tree is, or some kind of tree? There's a big tree by the south pond,
by the sound.
south of the high rise, across the road.
Oh,
There's an oak tree, and then there's the pond.
I see.
Okay, so you used to mow the area along there all the way up to the curve where it goes to
Right.
St. Andrews. Now it hasn't been mowed for weeks, and it's very overgrown. It's not a very pretty view for the high
I
rise.
see.
And this is on behalf of the entire community that I'm asking. It would be nice if that was it's kind of like you mowed all the way around the circle, except when you get to, I don't know the holes and stuff, until you get to the end of St. Andrews, and from the end of St. Andrews to the tree, right there by the pond, it's overgrown. So it would be much more attractive for our community.
I understand that. Dorothy, let me look into that. The
Okay.
instructions that we continue going everywhere we did. I will say this is the only private property that we own anywhere that all of you go from.
And I understand that.
And so you can appreciate how comfortable I feel living here with that unique situation. I'm saying a bit tongue in cheek on that.
Should I send you an email on that?
Please don't. I'll look into it.
Please don't.
Please don't. Please don't, because I will look into it. The instructions that please mow everywhere that we
Okay.
can mowing. Let me find out what's
I
going on.
will send you an email.
Probably we're taking this meeting off topic, but do you know, and I can check with John Bianchi, does the DHOA have landscaping service anywhere? Any of our property that is being owned by DHOA landscape?
Like the DHOA,
Yes.
Yes.
This is DP1A meeting, I appreciate that, so.
I don't know of any place.
I'll
I mean,
take
I
it.
have to.
I appreciate you pointing that out to me, Dorothy, when we look at it, and we have a conversation with John.
Okay.
Somebody is mowing about halfway down from St. Andrews towards the tree. So I don't know who that is, it could be the Adlon. And if they just want, they just want another 20, 30 yards, and we take care of the problem.
I don't know, it's Dominion property along that stretch, that side of the lake. I don't know that we were mowing it, Dorothy. I appreciate your perception that we stopped. I'll find out.
Well, the reality is the Forest Preserve has mowed the entire drive before. You know what I mean?
We had an agreement that we would go up to the south side along the drive there. We've gone above and down there, right in there. So, let me.
This is just a portion that used to be mowed, that is not being mowed now.
And I'm looking to find out who used to mow it.
It's actually behind 15 Green.
I understand.
Okay, it was not the DHOA or any one of the associations that was mowing there, I can tell you that.
Perfect. I'll look at it from my end and,
Sorry.
figure it out.
Sorry to ambush you.
No problem.
I can usually do that.
Not at all. All good.
Appreciate your input.
Uh,
Yes.
Under the manager's report, I just like, I think it would be good to get an update from John on the scavenger service. Because I think we need to make a motion for you to send a notice to get a contract from Flood Brothers.
We'll talk about that in the executive session.
That's okay.
Yes.
Because he needs notice by 20th. He needs to get notice by the 20th.
You've already given notice, correct?
Can
Can you sign it?
We've given notice of flood roads, but not the current.
So is the contract in process? We're going to be getting it? That's what I wanted to know.
And that's already been
That's what I
fixed.
wanted to know.
The notice of cancellation is the only thing that has not been done.
Gotcha.
Everything else is set.
Okay.
One more question, back up just a little bit. Where are we on replacing the stand for the mailboxes down by the south park?
From what I understand, there's The holdup is that they are going to do the entire mailboxes, not just the stamp. And that, obviously billing the entirety back to Amazon because it was their fault. And the holdup is those were not out of the box mailboxes, they were special order. And so the issue is replacing them as close as possible, one. That was what I was told. However, if that's the case, we want to pursue it out of the box, we can have that done pretty quickly.
So is Amazon taking care of this?
Everything's
Is that
got
what
paid
you're
for
telling
it, but we're still doing it.
us? We're doing.
Yes.
Okay, there are boxes that look like the ones that we bought that are more reasonable in price.
100%, yes, and that's up to the five of you.
Wasn't the waiver?
And the association paid for the stand, I don't know what to call it, for the stand, but the individual homeowners paid for their boxes.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
So-
and they'd be basically getting a free brand new
yes.
mailbox on it.
What can we do to move that along?
Again, the decision would have to be to go through something that is already pre-made. If you want it done quickly, we can purchase something and have it up there pretty quickly. If not, then it goes into how you want to proceed with how well it matches.
Can we just give John, the agency to go ahead and explore what would best match and move forward with that? Because we're gonna get reimbursed anyway, right?
Correct.
Ultimately?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
I would entertain a motion to do so.
Done.
So I seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That was easy.
Looking at Wayfair, I thought Wayfair had one mailboxes.
They said it's just gonna be something that matches, it's the 3 boxes, right?
4.
It's the 4 boxes.
So there's one. I can go look. If I find it on Wayfair, I'll just look.
Okay, give me that one.
If we have an idea, and we make them golden color,
Honestly, Amazon's paying for it, you can make it out of gold as far as I'm concerned.
Pay for, yeah, commit to pay for and pay for are two different things, I believe.
100% true. And again, remind, that's a good point, is that yes, while Amazon will be paying for it, we will be fronting them the money. So that's why the debate between prefab and handmade is to be why we suggest this.
Okay. I've skipped around a lot. So many people are here to hear about the status of the reserve study. Bob's got us update as it relates to some things that we're going to be asking from the vendor to modify. Bob, go ahead.
All right, well, I just want to share with you, I've been I haven't even counted the hours I've been putting into the reserve study changes that we talked about in the reserve study workshop back in June. I scrutinized the recommendations that I had made that the board and others participating in that meeting went through and followed up in the ways I had been asked to. So I have 3 pages, actually 4 pages from the reserve study that are actually 4 pages from the reserve study where I've noted some changes for us to quickly go through that we're going to ask building reserves to make in the reserve study, which will affect the items that are included in the reserve study, what the responsibilities are, owner versus association, and have different rows added, and I'll be talking about that. That will reflect how decisions are made by the board on how to fund things. And then once building reserves makes these changes, then we will have like the final report in our hands. So I'm going to start with the response. One of the things I've been really cognizant of is how reserve studies, what the purposes of a reserve study are from the organization that does a reserve study. One of the things they want to do is they want to look at expenses, and in this case, Building Reserves looks at it over a 30-year time frame. So one of the things we all have to keep in mind is how old are we going to be 30 years from now? Are we still going to be here 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now? Because when you look at projected expenses over 30 years, the numbers can get pretty overwhelming from a board perspective, because you get into the over $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to replace certain things. Our focus is really going to be on the next 5 years, on what are the anticipated expenses the next 5 years, maybe 6, and then how will those be funded? What are the different options that we have? Okay. Now, there's differences of opinion on how things should be funded. Okay. The reserve studies MO is to say, here's a way to do it by funding everything through reserves. If we fund everything through reserves, that means increasing the monthly HOA fee every year for many years, or in a small amount, 15% over many years, or big chunks the first 3 years that would ultimately end up making the monthly HOA fee be over $1,000 a month. Okay? Now, what are the pros and the cons of that? The pros and the cons of that are, if you look at our HOA and our desire to want to sell our units someday, someone may say, you may actually be ruling out a lot of potential buyers because the HOA fees are so high. The way this HOA board has decided to fund things in order to keep the HOA fee down, and in order to look at other fiduciary responsibilities, like not having people go into foreclosure, etc., and not be able to have empty units because people can't afford to pay monthly fees, has been to either take loans out or do special assessments where individual homeowners can make a payment plan to meet that. So the reserve study does not make mention of those other ways of doing it. Their MO is to say, here's one way to do it, and that is to fund everything over the next 30 years for reserves, which then becomes, becomes problematic for us as owners who want to sell our places in the future or who might be on fixed incomes. So I've learned a lot talking with John, talking with the people that do building reserves, talking with other fellow board members and all that. And I went from thinking everything should be funded entirely through reserves to not. To say, let's recognize these other ways of paying for things, because I and many others have benefited from that. And I do want to be able to sell our units someday and have more buyers interested in it than fewer buyers. Okay? So I'm going to pass this page out to the board, and I'm going to quickly rattle through some of the changes that I'm recommending that we ask building reserves to make. And the reason, if you look at this responsibility matrix, this is like almost 4 to 5 times longer than the one in our rules and regulations, because it's much more specific. It's tailored around what they assess, okay? So, and they included some items in here that are covered by the Master Association that shouldn't be in here, so we're deleting some things. There's other things I'm adding here for clarification. Address signage is it's the numbers on the wall in the mailboxes. That is not an HOA responsibility, it's an owner responsibility. And it's a function of our responsibility matrix that is in our rules and regs in section 9.4. There's copies of that if you want to look at that. In the doors, I'm moving down this list. Doors, I've just added clarification that the doors are the entrance, siding, and garage doors are owner responsibilities. Okay? Because just having doors there does not it's too ambiguous. I'm eliminating fire hydrants because that is really the master association and/or it's the city's responsibility to maintain those fire hydrants. Gutters, downspouts, scuppers, aluminum phase replacements. All I did was, they currently have it under, those things are covered by reserves, but as Pat and I have talked about, there's times when we actually use the budget that's in the operating budget to pay for some of these things. So I said reserves or operating budget for that. For handrails, exterior at stairs, I've added that to the operating budget. And most of those handrails that I'm aware of are wood. That was a long-lived, under the long-lived category, but they're not long-lived if they're wood, only if they're steel. I've removed landscape maintenance because that does not fall under the purview of a reserve study. That's an operating budget and it's not a building. Lighting protection systems, I just added clarification that that was for street lights. And I moved the X from long-lived over to other because that's master association related. Under mailboxes, it said excluding station. I put that under owner because if we're not excluding the station, that's an owner responsibility there, but we're being reimbursed for the replacement of that by Amazon. So it's a moot point. If we go down to railings, wood, garages, replacement of phase replacement, that can be covered by either the reserve or the operating budget when it falls within the capabilities of the operating budget. Roofs, modified Goodman phase replacement, that could be either under reserve or operating budget depending upon what's available in the operating budget. Sealants, I just added some examples of that. That would be caulking on exterior walls and roofs. Signage monument, I crossed that off because the signage monument is actually at the entranceway to Dominion Drive. Yes?
Sorry, can you just clarify what you said about the sealant around doors and windows inside?
Well, usually when door frames go up, or like when you're talking about the sealants and the flashing between the roof and the mortar, those are sealants. They could be caulking, using a silicone caulk or a modified outdoor caulk, or it could be like a latex or petroleum-based sealant, like on roofs. So those are just an example of sealants, and they take those into account how they estimate costs.
Yeah, I guess my question is coming from, if the HOA is going to be painting, they normally paint around the windows, and that area would normally be caulked. And I just want to clarify whether that is in fact HOA or owner.
Well, painting would normally just be painted right over the caulk. That's...
So what happens when the caulk needs to be replaced?
That's a good question.
Well, it's very pertinent because I have had several,
I can answer historically.
Pardon?
I can answer that
Go ahead.
historically. Pretty much the doors and their framing is considered, the doors and the windows and their framing has been considered in the past the homeowner expense, which would include the caulk that seals them to the hardy board or the brick, wherever they are.
And
That's historically what's
Okay.
happened.
And not wanting to cut off valid questions.
Oh,
This is a board discussion.
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I just asked for clarification on that.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't have it yet.
Well, let me tell you that sealing any kind of caulk expense is peanuts compared to everything else in them. So but I understand your question about
Well,
who's
trying not
responsible.
to interrupt the meeting any further, the question becomes, are we really expecting everybody to be responsible for caulking their second floor windows?
Yes.
You should be monitoring that because otherwise it lets bugs in and rain and things like that. So, but for the time being, until we know otherwise, yes.
Okay.
Move
So
on.
then
The stairs and landings, wood phase replacement, it really only has to do with the original unchanged stairs that go from the patio to the garage, okay? Any modifications by homeowners, past and present, HOA is not responsible for those stairs, only the original stairs. I've also deleted the line that has to do with valves, common. That has more to do with the tower than it does for us. Any valves that we have are on our driveways, and that's the responsibilities of us for our connections to the main lines, okay? And sometimes it could be that, I don't know how that's handled, like with the city or the village, like if one of those starts leaking, if they come out and do it at their expense, but if there is an expense, it would be our expense as a
Talking
homeowner.
about the water shutoffs.
Yeah, the water shut off. So I deleted that. I've also put walls masonry inspection and walls privacy divider wood fencing replacement as something that would be covered by reserves or operating. And I've added a new line called paint finishes garage doors as a homeowner responsibility because it shows up in our declarations that the garage doors are our responsibilities from a painting perspective. And those are the changes on the, I did make these changes based on discussions I had with our rep from Building Reserves, looking at our rules and regs, our declarations, and information in there. And so that's one thing I'm suggesting. That drives a lot of other things in the report, by the way. There,
Now, let me cut to the
Yeah.
chase here. All of these things that you're asking, what's the time frame for submission of statement? Because at some point in time, we want to be done with the reserve study, release it
well, I think
for our use.
that would be a question I would have to ask John from Building Reserves. But he said basically give me what changes you want to have in the report, and then they're all kind of in a
And they're pretty common sense, correct?
Yeah.
As we've discussed. It's
I'm
a
assuming that they-
reason that when something needs to be spent,
yeah,
and that could vary over years.
yes. And I'm coming to those.
Sure.
I have a few more pages to go through, but all of this is really driven by a spreadsheet, a big workbook. And so, my familiar with the workbooks I work with is that you can go in there and make edits. So pretty quickly and pretty easily. But a lot of the ways it translates to the changes in the financial calculations are all formula driven. So there's probably, they just have to do a little checking in there to make sure that the
But
formulas
if
are
we're
all
only
under.
using the thing as guidance, it doesn't have to be perfect at this point in time.
No, and I'm not really disputing a lot of the numbers because I think we would never get done with this. We would have differences of opinion about things, and a contractor's going to come in with a different number anyway at the time we need it and all that.
Yes.
So all I'm doing is making overarching changes that make sense for the next 5 years, okay? There's another page here called the priority rating system, and this is where we get into how it drives some of the financial pages. So, yeah, here you go. I think, is that my, where did I go? Oh, no, no, this is yours. It's mine. My copy's right here, sorry. I've only made 3 changes on this, on row 4 under paint finishes. Phase 2, in parentheses, they have garage doors. And I've asked them to delete those word garage doors from paint finishes because those are an owner responsibility. They should not be built into the reserves. And that represents about $4,000 to paint all of the garage doors. And so I just asked them to not only delete that word, but also delete $4,000 from their estimate and how it's inflation adjusted over a 30-year time frame. I've also asked them to delete rows 18 and 19, mailbox station, common, and which I've already mentioned before, but also pipes, subsurface, utilities, laterals, sanitary sewer, and water supply. The reason I asked them to delete that is because anything that is going from the mains that run out in the street, or the electrical out along the hills, or however it's coming into our units, anything between there and our units, we're responsible for. Okay, so if our sanitary line is clogged between there and the main, that's our responsibility. That's the way it is in the rules and the regs. Okay. So now they have a budget item in there because if any of you have owned a home before coming here, sometimes your sanitary line gets clogged, and it is rather pricey. It can vary in price based on what's clogging it. If it was a clay line and it collapsed, they have to do digging, they have to replace it. It takes a lot. So at some point in time, any one of us could have a sanitary line that gets clogged. Okay. I don't think that they're including in this the replacement of the main sanitary lines, which is the responsibility of the Maine Master Association. So if that ever has to happen, it would be the Maine Master Association that would have to notify us that, hey, we got to do this, and here's how much it's going to cost, and they would have their own special assessment on that, so, or a loan, or whatever to get it done. Okay? Those are the only changes to this page. Okay? Next, and then I just have two more after this. This one's a little, here you go. I don't want to get rid of. Okay. This next one is on Division 1 cash flow and expenditures displaying for the first 5 years, okay? This is a little crazy on this page because I've added a lot of notes that go with things, but in row 1 under balconies, railings, wood, residential buildings, or residential buildings and phase replacement, I just put down that rows 1 and 13 has to do with walls, privacy, divider, wood fencing, and phase replacement, that we need to consider the current bids that we got for having everything done, and whether it was balconies or whether it had to do with railings. I don't think I'm ready to put a number in here. We need to really think about this. It's going to have to do with the proposed costs from AAA for board decisions about what to cover in 2026, 27, and 28 at either our current meeting or the next meeting. So those, we might have to leave those numbers they have in there as placeholders, but it's subject to change when we get more information. Okay. Remember, the total cost from AA to paint everything and replace all the wood was like, I think it was like $41,000. It was a lot. Okay, but that is going to be spread now. It's not going to all be hit in 1 year because of things we've already talked about as a board. We move down to the next row, paint finishes that have to do with divider walls, balconies, and railings. That also ties into the bids from AAA, so that's another line that is affected by that. Now, the painting was a bid for $22,000, so we need to back out of that whatever wouldn't be painted in terms of railings and divider walls and all that. If we go to row 8, roofs, modified bitumen, if we go to roofs, asphalt shingles and replacement, they had glasses on for this. I think it's $292,000, $292,306 designated for 2031. Now that was what the reserve study put down based on the information they had. But if I look at the very roofing assessment when they did the inspection of the roofs in 2024, they said that that wouldn't really be necessary until 2032, if I read that correctly. And it wouldn't necessarily be that we'd have to replace all of them at once. We could phase them in over time. So that's really going to be up to the board in those upcoming years, closer to, and by then, you know, there'll be another inspection that'll need to be made of the roofs, but we're going to move it from 2031 to 2032 for now.
You have
Okay.
2036.
Oh, 2036, I was mistaken, okay? I'll double check that too. If we go to roofs, modified bitumen and phase replacements, they have replacing all of the garage, these are the garage roofs now. The reserve study had them, had a lot of money allocated to 2028 and 2029. But when we did the walk around with the building inspector, we had, or with the building reserves fellow, the property manager, he did say that you might not need to replace all of these in just 2 years or in 1 year. Because we talked about how some of these units, some of us as owners are not even using our garage roofs, so they're in better shape. Others are using them a lot, or they put carpeting on their garage roof, and that has caused other problems. So how much money we allocate to those replacements is really going to require the opinion of like a roofing contractor like Barry to come in and look at every roof and then tell us when they think these need to be replaced. And it could be that
The functional life could be further out.
it could be further out. It could be that we might need to replace one roof next year because of its current status. But other roofs are going to be dependent upon the status of those roofs.
Sure.
And we'll get a better idea of when those are predicted from a roofing contractor as opposed to just a property manager that's kind of lumping everything together. Okay?
It's going to be an as-need basis.
Pardon me?
It'll be an as-need basis.
Potentially, yes.
Definitely as needed. Not, you wouldn't do it if it wasn't needed, right? You'd want it,
You would hope.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So, the asphalt driveways and parking lots, one thing I did do there is they had $10,834 allocated for 2028, and I'm asking them to delete that. And instead, in 2026, I put $5,600 in there because that was the estimate that we got to do it this year. And then I'm asking them to put in that same amount, inflation adjusted, every 3 years thereafter. Because we know from the property manager and discussions we had with him that if you can be crack sealing and sealing the driveways and the parking lots more frequently, every 2 to 3 years, you'll push out much further out when the asphalt needs to be replaced, okay? So that's the way I made a change to that. Concrete sidewalks, the standard partial replacements. In row 16, I changed the amount this year to, I didn't know how it was allocated, John, but I know we had approved a budget of $16,334 for stairs to be replaced and for concrete sidewalks to be replaced. So I just put 8,000 in row 16, and I put 8,496. I'm sorry. I put 8,334 into row 17, concrete stairs. it may shake out differently between those two
I'm just
rows.
doing math. and then-
Yeah, but those are the only changes to this particular page, and that will drive expenses a little bit differently. It'll drive expenses differently in the first 5 years as well as the years after that. But again, we shouldn't be concerned about the years after that because things will change over time as we get more information. The very last page has to do with changes in the rows at the top of the make sure I haven't lost my only copy. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I just want to rattle off the rows that Building Reserves has at the top of the page. They have, in this order, reserves at beginning of year, suggested reserve contribution, annual reserve adjustment percentage, special assessments, estimated interest earned on invested reserves, cumulative expenses by year, and projected reserves at year end. These are some changes that I proposed originally in the Building Reserves workshop, but I fine-tuned them after further reflection, okay? Number one, in suggested reserve contribution, they have suggested, because they were funding everything through reserves, that reserve contribution should go up 458% next year. Okay? That would like triple or quadruple our HOA fee. Okay? In year two, they suggested an 82% increase. And in 29, they suggested a 45% increase. Every year thereafter, they suggested a 3.7% adjustment for inflation, increase for inflation. Well, I can show you a spreadsheet and tell you how high the average HOA fee would be, and it becomes unaffordable, okay? So what I'm suggesting is that, and again, none of this is written in stone, these are suggestions, okay? For the board this year, and the board next year, and the board in the years after, to either confirm or change, okay? I'm suggesting that instead we we assume that there's going to be a 15% increase in the HOA fee next year. And we would assume the same for the year after, 2028, and the same for 2029. That allows the reserve contribution to go from 11,776 this year that we're going to be contributing to it, to $20,125 in 2027, $35,759 in 2028, and in 2028 it would be $54,000 and $205 that would be contributed to reserves. That will make up for whatever we're using reserves for between now and those years. And in future years, the reserves would go up 3.7%. Those are just placeholders for how much reserves would go up, okay? So that's just a suggestion. The board isn't saying that's what we're going to do. That decision about how much the HOA fee is going to go up next year will have to do with the board that is in place after the annual meeting this year when new board members may come on. Okay, that board will decide how much the HOA fee is going to go up and what the budget will be for next year. Again, this is a reserve study. These are just placeholders and suggestions for boards. Okay. The other changes is in the row that says special assessments. I want to change the name of that to like row D, special assessments. There's a reason. And then I want to add these rows. I want to add row A, inflation adjustment for operating budget. Row B would be applicable funds from operating budget. And row C would be loans taken to cover expenses. And then D, special assessments, would follow after C. The reason for that is because the way to fund these expenses in the reserve study are going to be funds from our operating budget. It's going to be a combination of funds from our operating budget, loans that the board decides to take to pay for it like they have in the past, and or special assessments that they will determine are necessary. So I want to be able to have rows in there for the boards to be able to see and be reminded that there's more than just special assessments that can be used to pay for these things, because it could be a loan. There's some of these things that we've already said are going to be paid for out of the operating budget. And then for these numbers in the years for each row, for A, I just suggest that we have, we put in an average of 3.7% for inflation adjustment to our operating budget every year for the next 30 years. Because it's foolish to think that things aren't, there's not going to be inflation on our insurance policy, there's not going to be inflation on scavenger service, etc. It's a reasonable assumption. It may be an underestimate based on things that we're finding out from financial reports nationally. For row B, for row B on, that would be inflation adjustment for operating budget. It would be, we want to change the number that's in row B that starts, actually we're keeping the number that's in 2027. That was my typo there. And we're just, let me see. The inflation adjustment for what goes into the operating budget would be reflect, I have to modify that. It should really be reflecting what is the numbers that I mentioned before. The numbers that are reflected by the amount, the dollar amounts added to suggested reserve contributions, and then 3% increase for the years after that. And then the projected reserves at year end should, the formula should be modified for that, because the dollars per year at year end should be the cumulative expenses plus how they're being paid for, which would be a negative number, plus how they're being paid for out of the operating budget, plus how they might be paying for out of loans, plus how they might be paying for out of D, special assessments. So, and we just want to delete the row estimated earned interest on invested reserves, because in a reserve study, if you're accumulating hundreds of thousands of dollars in reserves, you do want to take into account the interest that you're going to get. But because we have small reserves, the dollar amount isn't really worth tracking, even though Red Brick does keep that, does track that and report that in their financials. So these are the changes that I'm suggesting we ask building reserves to make. I've spent a lot of time scrutinizing everything and comparing it to other estimates that we've got and discuss feedback I've gotten. But I think if we get them to make, if we ask building reserves to make these changes, and then get a time frame from them, I don't know if it'll take a couple of weeks or just a month, then we'll be able to put this to bed, and we'll have a document that we can refer to for suggestions. Okay?
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
My first blush on this is it's a bit unrealistic overall, based on what we asked for in our initial thing. So there's some large dollar figures that I don't think are justified. Now, from the standpoint of making changes to it, to use this as a reference document, I have no problem with that, and I like what you've done. But we need to move forward on this so we can get the report published. The estimate of 15% increases year over year over year over year is not realistic.
Right.
From our homeowners' standpoint.
Right.
So just, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
So I would Is this a motion item, John, or is this just, we just give him the direction
We need to
to?
make a motion though, don't we? To say we want to submit these changes to building reserves?
No,
No, this is just a working document?
yes,
Okay.
nothing has been finalized, so nothing has to be redone.
Okay.
Uh,
Then, my feeling is that you should move forward on this immediately.
I do want you to know I ran many scenarios, actually 3 scenarios, where increased reserves for 5 years, for 3 years, and then for like 10 years. And it was like anything beyond 3 begins to make their eyeballs pop out on what the HOA fee would be on a monthly basis. So that's why I'm
It's
sticking
something
with
we have to
3.
live with
Yeah.
from a planning standpoint. That's not necessarily, we use it as guidance only.
Yeah. And the other thing, I did do a grid that I shared with the board on all the different ways that things could be paid for. The bottom line is that if we get a really bad windstorm and it destroys a lot of the roofs, insurance is gonna pay for that. Now, we have a higher deductible on our insurance for roof replacement, so we need to make sure that we have enough in operating budget or reserves to pay for the deductible. But there are some things that could happen that would cause something to be paid for in another way, like, through insurance. So there's just a lot of things to, it's not as simple as everybody thinks. It's complicated. And there's a lot of pros and cons to each way of doing it, okay? So I thank you for your patience on all that, and I'll submit these tomorrow to.
Great.
We don't want to work on that.
Thank you.
Now, homeowners forum. Laura, you have to say anything?
Oh, I was the only one who was talking during this meeting, but anyhow. You know what, I'll just caulk my own windows. It's good to know
Well, we'll have
information.
someone doing that.
Well, and I just want to go on the record as saying, I think that is pretty ridiculous, because whenever we've had anything painted, they always scrape the caulk and replace the caulk. That's just sort of what's done. And the caulking should be coordinated with the painting. So like, I'd like to caulk before you paint, which doesn't sound like it's gonna be a problem, because I don't know that we're really anywhere near getting painting done. So I'm just gonna say, I think it's kind of crazy, and I don't think most people bought 2-story townhomes thinking we were responsible for caulking our windows, but
I
that's.
think that they caulked the last time, if I can remember that they paid. I don't remember paying for caulking.
I paid for caulk because I hired somebody to do it.
Well, that was something additional you did, probably.
Correct me if
Well,
I'm
yeah,
wrong, you paint hardy board?
When you
We don't
have,
paint hardy board, do we?
when you have water.
Yeah,
We haven't. We didn't
We
have
have
to.
Originally, we did.
that's
yes.
why we got hardy board, is to avoid the need to paint.
Right, but it's about.
So if you're not painting,
No,
then you don't need to do caulking.
Hardy board has to be painted about every 25 to 30
They paint
years.
it, thank you.
That's a long time,
Right.
but it will eventually have to be painted.
Right. This is why I pushed for the hardy board when I was president back then, so.
I'm sorry.
The windows, that's what you talking about, right?
One meeting, please, one meeting.
Sorry.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Now, wasn't she talking about her window?
Yes.
Windows.
It's okay, it's just, we all have to know, what's going on, but yeah.
I think it's interesting when people move from a single-family home to a condo or to a townhome. There are a lot of surprises. I remember when I first moved in here and I had sold a ton of townhomes and condos, sold them, but I had never lived in one. We lived here for maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks and our sewer line clogged. So I immediately called the emergency line of whatever, I guess it was Williamson back then, and said, my sewer line is blocked. And they said, well, good luck calling a plumber. It never occurred to me that that would be my responsibility.
No,
It's
that-
just an education process. Just a minute. It's an education process, plus things have changed. There's more information, there's more rules, there's more of everything now than there was 22 years ago when I began.
I just want to add, you mentioned service line. If that's our responsibility, make sure that you add service line onto your homeowner policies, because you can do that. It's not.
So are we gonna talk to Ed Bond about cutting that back to where it should have been? I don't wanna use property line, but is that gonna be discussed with them?
The old fence line, that we refer to
Yeah.
it as that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We were just talking about hardy board.
Yeah.
Back when I was a president, I was one who pushed for that to be used. We're talking about replacing balconies now and the like. There's a product out there, not dissimilar from hardy board. It's called Azek PVC. That can be used for spindles, for railings, whatever. That doesn't need to be painted ever again. So if you want to do it right, that'd be the path to take, just like we did with hardy board 28 years
I'm
ago.
sorry, what was the name of the company?
AZEK.
We recommend anything like that, Trex, all sorts of different, it's what he's saying under multiple different names that are out there. But we recommend doing that for cost-saving purposes so that it never has to be maintained ever again as opposed to wood or steel.
Now, it's more expensive.
Correct. Up front, it's more expensive.
Yeah, it's more
Over the
expensive,
long
but,
run, it is not.
but to John's comment earlier, if you're looking at changing balconies and whatnot, you're gonna need an engineer anyways. And so that engineer might as well put together an RFP, request for proposals, that can be used as the standard to provide to all the potential bidders.
Georgie, what year did we do that?
We did the Hardy Board in 2015. Yeah.
What are the original courtyard exteriors considered to be by the board? Bob brought it up in the discussion regarding
Can you repeat the question?
What are the original, quote-unquote, original courtyard exteriors considered by you folks? What are the originals?
I don't know.
I think mine are original. and
Which is what would you have?
I would.
Are you talking about all wood?
The metal spirals.
Not going, are you talking about going from the ground? down?
Courtyard, the courtyard.
Right, from the courtyard to the road.
From the
Were
courtyard,
they all
the
metal
courtyard up to the garage.
No, how about?
Were they all on the spikers?
No,
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not talking about that. They're talking
And
about
there's just to let you know, it's a little side discussion here, was that, if I heard it correctly, they were all originally wood,
Yes.
and then owners replaced them with metal.
No. And my understanding is that our quad was one of the models for the development. And so not all of the quads were built identically. So if
Okay.
you look at our quad, you look at Stevenson's quad, all have the steel spiral stairs. At some point down, I don't remember, down the road, as you move south, it may have gone into being made out of wood, don't know. But,
So 11 through 27 and 21 through 20.
whatever it is. But they seem to be consistent amongst the quads. You got the metal stairs in this quad and that quad. You don't see wood and steel in the same quad.
You're talking about the stairs going up to the
The
garage.
courtyard, correct, courtyard.
So some were steel and others were wood.
You know, no, Bob, the guy that lived next door to you, pulled out the steel years ago.
Yeah,
And he had concrete poured in that whole courtyard, okay?
he has no access to the roof other than jumping up there.
Well, no, they built wood at some point, didn't they?
I'd have to look.
So in other words, that owner chose to remove the steel and put in a wood. And you wouldn't know that unless someone like me happened to see it. So again, this is why I asked, because at some point, the people with the steel are gonna want the rust scraped off and painted, and we don't want there to be an argument when we have to do that.
You still have the metal?
I do.
Wow.
I paint my own.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the thing on the insurance policy and the sewer line. I bought myself a router because mine clogs so often.
It's a big job.
Garage door painting. One of the things that really hurts curb appeal of our community is the fact that so many of our garage doors are badly faded, especially on the inner units that are facing west, really looks bad. So I paint my garage door every 3-4 years as needed, just to keep it that dark, rich brown color, so it looks nice. You might want to consider adjusting how you approach the garage doors.
You talking about the garage doors?
Garage doors, just to make sure that they're all painted and looks nice and crisp and clean as you go down. Between that and the fact that I can't get my evergreens trimmed really makes the community look just unkept. It's unkept. And Pat, I've messaged you twice now to ask when are we going to get our evergreens trimmed. We've gotten zero response from you. We're running out of summertime now. I've got trees overgrown again, and by the time they get trimmed back, they're going to look like shit because you had to cut off all the
What's your
green
language?
to get it.
Language? I know you're frustrated. but-
I'm very frustrated because I've already lost 3 of these last season.
Very low.
Whatever,
Excuse me.
whatever.
It's so noted, we're looking into it,
Looking into how long do you need to look into sending the landscaper out there to trim the bushes?
because I don't contact landscapers.
Why not? You're the board president.
Doesn't make any difference, I don't have dealings with the contractor.
Why don't you? You're the board president.
Our management company does that. That's what we
Have you
pay.
communicated to the management company that you've been getting requests from your constituents that you
Well
need to
aware
get
of
them
the
addressed?
request, and we're working on it, okay?
What needs to happen? What needs to happen to get the bushes trimmed?
Quit showing
What
off
was
your
the-
camera.
but-
okay?
No.
Hang on.
Why is this so challenging?
Stop talking for a second, because this has now gone too far. The fact of the matter is, you've gotten your answer, and if you need anything further, please contact me at your earliest convenience, or in fact, actually go further and contact our attorney. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is over, and we are no longer speaking. Your counsel is present, ours is not. Done. Walk away.
What are you talking about, dude?
Literally just explained it. Moving on.
Which brings me up to something I did forget. It's always been a policy since I've been here that when shrubbery is in jeopardy, the board will pay for removal, will not pay for replacement. So for example, your heat-upon things that you make a big deal about, price, we'll be glad to remove those. And you can make your own decision how you want to replace them and make your commitments to maintain safe. Same thing with your arborvitae or whatever it was you were showing that was cut back. That was cut back because you made the ad-log people,
These are association assets. These are association assets.
they are not.
Everything outside the wall belongs to the association,
Except
including what's in the planter
when
beds.
you put them in,
Everything?
I didn't put them in.
Everything?
I didn't put them in.
No, can you quote that everything?
Outside of the walls is not my responsibility.
Outside of the wall, you want to note that for the minutes? Outside the walls is the entirety of the association's responsibility now.
Is it, since when isn't it?
Oh,
Is
I'm just making sure that we note that.
As
All
I,
right, this is
in
getting a little crazy,
in the
and
same vein,
I think it needs to stop. I think the problem, most of the time when we come here, is lack of communication. I have emailed you with stuff to send to the board, I don't get responses. I don't know if it was directly you or prior to you. And I'll be honest, it's very frustrating that we are not communicated with. Even an acknowledgement that yes, we saw your email, we're gonna discuss it, none of that. We are a very small community. In no way should there be this much lack of communication.
And you're right. However, on many circumstances, we have been requested by our attorney not to respond to any of the emails that are sent out there to everybody. Because.
Well, then I think you need to respond to the person that first, and
Exactly.
do it privately
And
to the time.
we've been trying to do that, but we will not respond to any generic email that's sent to everybody. We've
Okay.
been advised not to. It's hard not to.
No, I
because we
get
would
that.
love to.
You don't want to bring it out to the community. I get that. We
Well,
don't want
we
this
don't want
going
to
out on
commit- We
email.
don't want to affirm or commit to anything that can be
But I know with my situation, since we moved here, especially when I did not understand what we were responsible, what we weren't. I, like many, moved in and thought anything outside my patios was, okay, so I didn't know, and I did not get responsive. That, I think, was me, and it was very, very, very frustrating.
That is certainly.
I would actually throw my hands up and said, okay, whatever, I'm not going to the meeting, they're doing whatever they want, they don't tell us nothing. And I just think the transparency and the communication is lacking. And I think that gets a lot of people's blood pressure and angry when we don't need to be, because maybe behind the scenes you guys are dealing with it, but nobody knows that, because we don't get responded to. So, because this is not good.
Thank you. And then as it relates to another project that was put in for the removal of an unsightly weed/tree at 3, what's your address?
Between 323 and 325.
That should be approved. Because we've done it in other units where the growth became unsightly or there were problems. So
I thought
this is
that was
instructor.
approved. Did we not approve that? That it was an architectural change form, and did we not approve that online?
They've not heard back from you, John, is the question. Correct. You got the automated response?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We should get that on the schedule for removal.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have it, I don't have a response, so that, I'll put that in now as approved.
Anything else? Go
And
ahead.
Mary asked me to bring this up. I'm not, she indicated somewhere in the back of the house, there's, around the windows, the painting is something's, I didn't look, so I'm not sure. It's coming off, but I don't understand what she's talking about, because it's a hardy board.
I do know what she's talking about. She reached out to me, and I actually have, it wasn't it wouldn't be Barry's responsibility. But we're gonna get a contractor out there to take a look at what she's referring to.
And I sent you an email, I haven't checked on this, but it appears Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have changed their rules. They only regulated associations with 30 units and more. I think they've dropped that to 15. And they could be looking now, if that's a fact, and I can't tell you this, you have to ask the attorney.
Yeah, we just got that email this evening, David. We'll look into it.
Yeah. But if they're involved and they look at the reserves and they just determine the reserves weren't sufficient, they would not buy mortgages from lenders or from associations who had that problem, which would stop lenders from loaning money to potential buyers.
Sure.
So that's an issue that's got to be looked at.
So I can actually follow up with some fact on that. 100% you're correct, whether or not it actually is per their policy or per, I guess it would be federal at that point, depending on who would oversee it. They're doing it either way, to where they're looking at the reserve studies, or not reserve studies, reserve contributions and reserve total amounts of money and rejecting based on that already. So the fact of the matter is, whether or not it's going to be written down, it's already being done. You're absolutely correct. That being said, one of the things that we are actually doing as a budgetary priority, which is starting September 1st, is bringing that into all of our proposed budgets as well for the board's proposal. What we do a board budget proposal to the board based on our recommendations, not only what the federal and state laws. That is included this year in all of our recommendeds as well. So yeah, we are on top of that 100% because again, whether or not it's written down, they're doing it anyway. So it is going to be our recommendation from the management company that we take that into account come budget season, which again starts in 2 months.
Yeah, but what Bob was saying, that he's recommending a 15% increase to the reserve contribution. At the current time, that's only $11,000 a year.
Correct.
you put 15% on that, that's only an extra
So to
1,600.
clarify, what they're actually looking for is 15% of your income, not your actual current budget. So if we were, say, just to make it a nice, easy round number, this is not actual numbers. If it were $100,000, they expect 15,000 in there at minimum. So again, when I submit my budget to them, when we're doing our budget workshops, that is going to be my recommendation that we have at minimum that amount, so that exact thing does not happen, because again, that kills home value. So it's going to be not just for here, it's going to be for every property across Illinois at this point, and eventually, unfortunately, across the entire United States. So it is going to be addressed, and something I'm aware of and have already passed along minimally to the rest of the board. But on top of that, I'm going in there with a minimum of plus 15 on there already, so that we're good to go on it, because I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. Freddie, Fannie change their stuff on a regular basis, which is one of the things that we have regular contact with, not just Kathy, our attorney, but the other 4 major state attorneys as well, and they come tell us every month over at Red Brick, and I know that every other property management, community management company also does this. Give us an update on what laws have just come in so that we can adopt and adapt, which is why you guys are the first ones in my portfolio to get the rules in for the collections policy. That just came down and was signed. I don't even know if it was signed by Pritzker yet at this point. I don't want to wait for that, honestly. The fact of the matter is, I want to be ahead of it. And again, what you're saying, regardless of whether or not it actually is on paper and they're enforcing it, they're doing it anyway. So why take a chance? Let's just do it.
Yeah, by the way, Pat, when we came on the board 20-some years ago, we raised the assessments 6 years in a row.
That's fine.
And the same reason, because they hadn't been raised for 15 years. And what you're looking at, you actually, the money that came from the bank, or when the bank loan was paid off, instead of throwing that into reserves, you just set it off against the assessment and lowered the assessment. And that could end up being a disaster, but that's neither here nor there.
Well,
Years of less growth, years of less growth.
We'll talk about that when we do the budget as well, because obviously there's a lot of things that are going to be factors. And again, budget process starts September 1, so we're there basically. All of these things are going to be put in there for determination by the board, because again, a lot of that is true.
All right, if there's nothing more from the audience, I'd like to adjourn the meeting, go into executive session.
Did we ask you what you're going into executive session for, in case you want to stay here when you have to make a motion in open session after the meeting?
No.
You're not going to tell us what you're going into executive session? What the heck do we know whether it's an executive session?
Each one of us comes with different issues.
Excuse me.
And you did say something, you must have had a meeting about the...
No, we did not.
Hold it. No,
We
that's
have
not what I
talked
said.
back and
No,
forth
no,
for
no.
meetings.
No, I thought you said you had a meeting discussing the resource.
No, we did not.
No, the
Oh, we
reserve
had,
study
yes, we
budget
did
session
have a meeting
generated
today, and everyone was invited to it.
You were in it.
We had a meeting in, it was public for everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.